Hi guys. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm probably never going to do a video first thing Sunday morning, so. Anyway, I had to finish writing out the information on chapter 6 for our video here. I hope everyone had a good night. I had kind of a late night. Our daughter hasn't been feeling very good. But it's okay. She'll get better. She's doing a little better than she was last night. And then we went to church this morning, had a very good service. Our pastor talked on Revelation 19 through 21. It was very good. And, we've had a pretty good day so far. Just kind of trying to get ready for this video. I decided to wait on doing another live video until after we've been out to the property and we've started getting some work done. And we have more to show. We do have people looking out for a camper trailer for us, just a fixer-upper. I've had a couple of people offer on help us fix it up once we do get one, and they're even willing to help get it out onto the property for us, so that's a thing. I may be able to get everything pulled together for my job with Live Ops. It's independent contractor for customer service. So I should be able to get everything pulled together to be able to get on there and get hooked up with one of the companies that they work with this week. And I hope so, because I only have like 20 hours at work this week. Sucks, but hopefully they'll call me in early a couple of times. As long as they don't try to call me in Wednesday. Wednesday's a no-go, because we're going out to the property Wednesday. Anyway, so today is chapter 6, and this is on preserving food. Very, 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 very important on being able to know how to preserve your food. If you tend your urban homesteading garden well and your plants aren't afflicted by any diseases, insect invasions, or adverse weather conditions, you should have a bountiful harvest to put up. Now, you can't do much about the weather. The diseases, there are things that you can do with your plants to prevent certain things from happening, like blossom end rot with your tomatoes. That's going to be something I'm going to cover in another video altogether, but there's things like that. And there's other, I don't remember the names of a lot of them. I'm still working on researching and reading up on that stuff. And the preventions and that kind of thing. Now, with insects and bugs, there are home remedies that you can make for bug sprays that do work. And I learned about that through Doug and Stacy's videos. Of course, Oscar to Doug and Stacy. Shout out to them. In my opinion, one of the best homesteading channels on YouTube. One of the best channels out there. They've been out there for a long, long time. And they know their stuff. They know what they're doing. They use everything that they teach everyone else. They've used it. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. So I would check that out. I actually have made one of their recipes before and it did work. Only don't put it in a plastic bottle because it will eat through it. And that is because of the cayenne pepper in it. Pull up the video of, I do believe it's, I want to say it's just homemade bug sprays or something like that. Or for garden pests or something. It's kind of an older video, but the stuff does work. Get a glass spray bottle, though. And those are easy to find. You can find those on Amazon. They're all over the place. Alright, there are a myriad of ways to preserve the fruits, nuts, and vegetables that you are growing. In an urban or suburban setting, smoking meat to dry it might be problematic. But all of the other methods detailed below can easily be done even in tight living quarters. Smoking the meat, I've decided that's what we're going to stick with. I don't really want to try to go the detail and take the chances with curing it through salting and trying to preserve it that way. I don't want to take the chances with it. Because if any little tiny part of your meat is not covered, then it can go bad. So, we're going to stick with smoking. And we will be building our own smokehouse. I can't wait for that. That's not going to take much. That's going to take probably... Well, I mean, it's basically going to be just like a tiny little cabin kind of thing that we're going to build. And I'm going to go by a couple of things that I've gotten, a couple of different books, plus some things that I've looked up on Pinterest and read up on building your own smokehouse. But that's how we're going to do ours. Processing the harvest may take a lot of time. No matter which methods you choose, you are cutting up potatoes to blanch, chopping strawberries to make jam, or canning cucumbers to make pickles. You might find yourself yearning for the days when you were bent over your garden pulling weeds beneath a hot sun. But don't worry, all the work of preserving your food will be worth it when you pull it out of the cabinet and take that first delicious bite on a cold winter's day. Okay. And it is worth it, especially with the health benefits that you get from preserving your own food that you grew and raised yourself. So, sorry, it's a little chicken noodle soup. Okay. 7 best ways to preserve food. Number 1, canning, both water, bath, and pressure canning. Number 2, dehydrating. Number 3, smoking. Number 4, salting. Number 5, pickling and or fermentation. 6, freezing. And 7, freeze drying. Almost any food can be preserved using the methods listed above. However, if the preservation method requires refrigeration of any sort, it won't be the best option for urban homesteading preppers who are concerned about a survival scenario. And that's definitely true. You want your food to be able to be preserved without having to use refrigeration. Okay, canning. I talked about that in my live video. Doug and Stacy have talked about that. The heat from canning destroys a lot of the nutrients in your food. You want your food live. You want as much of that nutrients as possible. But in a situation where you don't have any other choice, you at least won't starve. So, canning. There are 2 ways to can food: water bath canning and pressure canning. The food you are canning will dictate which method is used. For example, meat and corn must always be pressure canned. Water bath canning involves preparing the food, often boiling and seasoning, and putting it in mason jars before placing them in a large pot filled with water for processing. A canning cookbook, like the tried and true Ball version, will tell you how to can specific types of food: soups, stews, sauces, broths, and jellies. Okay, I'm going to stop right here for a minute because the ways that you can tell how you need to can certain things. For water bath canning, if it's something that's really acidic, most of your fruits, if not all of your fruit, can be water bath canned because all of your fruits are quite acidic. Tomatoes, anything with tomatoes, just straight up canning your tomatoes or tomato sauce or anything to do with tomatoes, you can water bath can it because tomatoes are very, very acidic. Your juices, you can water bath can your juices because your juices are made from your fruits and your fruits are acidic. So anything that's very acidic, you water bath can. Or anything that uses vinegar, you water bath can. Any type of pickles, like your regular pickles, your bread and butter pickles, or dill beans, or dilled carrots, or anything like that. Anything that uses vinegar, you water bath can that. Okay. Now with pressure canning, most of your vegetables, unless you're pickling them, have to be pressure canned. And there's a fine line to it to do it properly so it's safe. I was playing around with it in Michigan. I was able to get a few things done properly. I was able to pressure can some Chinese long red noodle beans from our garden, dragon tongue beans, and those are amazing. I love those beans. Those are one of my favorites. And James Prigioni from the Gardening Channel, he has mentioned those. And those are like one of his favorites as well. They became one of my favorites the first year I grew those. Those are amazing beans. They get like probably that long and about that wide. Oh, sorry, about that wide. And they're so good. Anyway, I also canned some pumpkin that I'd had in the freezer to get it out of the freezer. And that worked. I canned some straight neck squash. I spiced it, like with cinnamon and a little bit of, I think I used allspice. I don't know what else I used. I don't remember. And I pressure canned that, and that worked pretty well. I never actually got to use my brand new pressure canner. I'd had another one given to me that I'd used for the other stuff. But my brand new pressure canner, I'm going to let my son have. Just in case of worst case scenario, he's going to need a way to preserve food. So, hey, he won't starve. He's not going to go as far as fermentation, but he won't starve. He'll be able to water bath can what he wants out of whatever he grows. And yes, again, I'm still going to go through and send him seeds. I haven't had a chance to go through them yet. I might try to do that this week. Money's been kind of tight. I'm working on some ways to try to figure out how to make a little extra money for, our homestead and to put towards our homestead. And also to be able to send our son, number one, so he has some extra money. And number two, also to send him what he's going to need to send the stuff we need down here. So, canning supplies. Mason jars. The sizes I will recommend are your quarter. Okay, there's actually like little quarter-sized pint jars. You have your half pint jars, which are the ones that are about like this, that big around. They're the basic jelly jars. Then you have your little quarters that are the quarter ones are literally half of those half pint jars. They're quite small and they still take the regular sized lids. You can get those in 12 count cases. Pretty much everywhere that sells the canning stuff. But your quarter-sized pint jars, your half-sized pint jars, your pint jars, and your quart jars. Those are your main sizes for all the canning that you're gonna need to do from your garden. Now, if you're gonna do extra stuff like, say, off from Doug and Stacy's channel, like the kombucha or like some of the drinks and stuff that they do, you're gonna want gallon size and half gallon size jars. Those are more expensive, but it is nice to have those jars. Now, the gallon jars, if you like dill pickles, go to your grocery store, and go to their value aisle, their bulk aisle, and get the glass gallon size jar of your dill pickles. And you can wash those jars out and reuse them. You can use those to make homemade apple cider vinegar in. You can use them to make you can even use them to make homemade wines and homemade alcohol in it. So, those come in really handy. Alright, so you're going to need extra rings and lids. They say they're not reusable, but you just have to check the rubber part on them and make sure there's no, like, nicks or anything in them. If they still look new, then you can reuse them. They do work. I've been able to use them. And my mom used to do the same thing, so. Pressure canner and a water bath canner. Canning jar basket. Your wire basket usually comes in your water bath canner. Magnetic lid lifter. That comes in handy for when you sterilize your lids. A jar lifter. I highly recommend the jar lifter because it is not exactly safe to have to reach in there with like a towel or a dish rag, a folded up dish rag to grab your jars out of your hot water bath canner or pressure canner. It's just, I've had to do it many times, but I'm going to have to get another canning set just in case of when I do end up canning a few things. So I have that to lift it out. And a metal funnel. One that'll fit. The one that's got like the wider hole at the bottom. Because those actually, they fit just inside the mouth of your jar. And they make it a lot less messy. A lot less you have to wipe up off the jar and around the rim of your jar. You still have to clean it though. Okay. So, the second thing here, dehydrating. Electric dehydrators can be purchased in a residential grade for around $100. I actually have 2 dehydrators in Michigan. I will more than likely have our son send one of them down because it does work. It's electric, but for the time being, it'll work. And I'm going to save money back for a sun oven. Off Doug and Stacy's website using their link to get the discount. I will get a sun oven because a sun oven you can use to dehydrate stuff as well. It's a dehydrator, and you can use it for so many things. Anyway, my first machine was a Nesco, and I used it heavily for 2 years without complaint before upgrading to a more powerful and larger version of the same brand. Okay, I don't even know what brand they're talking about, but I haven't had a chance to look it up. Mine was, I think I spent about $60 on mine, and I got it off from Amazon, I do believe. Eventually, I purchased a second one so we could process our garden and apothecary yield more quickly. All but the first dehydrator were exceptionally quiet. Mine was fairly quiet. It wasn't too bad. I have also used a dehydrator made by Excalibur, a top brand, and I was thrilled with it as well. But ultimately, I preferred the lower price tag model since it was of equal quality. And I might check that out and find out, what ones are equal to that. Or I'll just have Aaron send down the dehydrator that I have and just save that other money towards the sun oven, which is probably a better idea. When dehydrating sauce, broth, soup, a liquid such as milk, or an exceptionally juicy fruit, use the plastic tray liner that fits your machine. Several solid liners and mesh ones are typically included with a new machine, but you should buy extras. Uniformity is essential when dehydrating. Whether you're drying cheese or tomatoes, as all the pieces should be as close as possible to the same thickness. It is possible to use your oven as a dehydrator, but only if the temp setting will go lower than 150 degrees, because you don't want to literally heat the nutrients right out of your food, and you don't want to burn it. Your dehydrating machine will have a little cookbook style guide to help you learn what temp settings to use for fruits, veggies, nuts, berries, herbs, meat, and dairy products. Instructions for making both meat jerky, which a lot of people really like the jerky, and I have actually had homemade beef, like meat jerky, and it's really good. And fruit leather are also generally included. It is best to store dehydrated food in small airtight containers as opposed to large containers. 1/4 size pint jars. That's what I was talking about. The small jelly jars. They're 1/4 size pint jars, and yeah, are absolutely wonderful for these. Doing so will prevent unused portions from being overly exposed to moisture when opened, and that's important. How the dried food is reconstituted varies greatly by the type of food. Typically, it only takes a little bit of water to bring most foods back to their original state. If making a soup, stew, casserole, or sauce, it is not necessary to dehydrate most dried ingredients before use. And I might have to look at that because I think they meant to put to rehydrate most dried ingredients. It is not necessary to rehydrate most dried ingredients before each use. They screwed up. That was a typo. Anyway, when dehydrating meat, it is almost always recommended. Sorry, I couldn't read my own writing. Recommended that you brown your beef before drying it in a machine. And I don't know much about that, but I will look that up. Okay, this is my number one favorite for meat, and this is exactly what we're going to be doing is smoking in our smokehouse. Smoking the meat. Smoking. Meat can be preserved by smoking via a smokehouse or a backyard charcoal or propane gas-powered smoker. We will be building a smokehouse. And I cannot wait because that smoked meat is so, so, so good. Smoking meat is a lot like dehydrating or salt curing. The process centers around removing as much moisture as possible from the meat to prevent the growth of mold and mildew. Smoked meat, not only jerky, always seems to have a delicious and distinct flavor. Jerky is hard after being smoked, but once prepared, hams, beef, roast, and similar items are juicy and rich in flavor. Meat is almost always smoked at a temperature between 150 to 200 degrees. Salting. When I read this, you guys will understand why I don't really want to go this route. First of all, it's going to take a lot of salt, and I'm already going to have to stock up on a lot of the Redmond's real salt for fermenting, because that's going to take a lot. Plus, whatever we use for our normal stuff. Okay, Salting. To preserve meat with this pioneering method, some variety of curing salt, not standard table salt, must be used. Both sea salt and kosher salt are commonly used in home curing of meat. As Doug and Stacy have said, I would highly recommend the Redmond's Real Salt because it has all the minerals and nutrients in it, and it has not been touched and destroyed. The salt sucks the moisture out of the meat to help prevent the growth of harmful bacteria. The meat must be deeply and thoroughly coated with salt to prevent rotting. Any spot on the meat left exposed to the air and moisture can foster the growth of mold and mildew and destroy the meat. That's a reason why I'm not real keen on that. There should be roughly a 1-inch thick layer of salt covering the entire piece of meat. The salt must be gently rubbed onto the meat to make it stick. Covering the meat with cheesecloth is not required, but is highly recommended to put a barrier between the food and bugs or debris. The meat must be hung in a cool, dark place to cure and should be safe to eat for 12 months if the proper process was followed during curing. Please note that these are just the basics and not a detailed guide to the curing process. And you can get books, if you want to go that route, you can get books on it on Amazon. A lot of the books that they sell on homesteading and the different things that you can do for food preservation and a lot of the things that you can do on your homestead, everything that you can do on your homestead to run your homestead, preserve your food. A lot of those books are not much more than $20 a piece. Most of them are less than $20. Unless you get a hardcover or spiral bound, and then you're looking at like $30+ a lot of the time. Anyway, pickling and fermentation. And this is the route that I'm going to be going with the fermentation for that live, healthy food. Vegetables and meat are the commonly fermented foods. Nuts, fruits, and even milk can be preserved in this manner as well. Most fermenting recipes require the addition of sugar, salt, or honey to make the brine that the food soaks in. Fermenting and pickling are slow processes that require both diligence and patience. Neglecting to monitor and follow instructions to further the process will result in a very stinky failure and the loss of valuable food that you grew or raised yourself. But I'm going to be learning a lot more on the fermentation. I'm going to be watching the videos that Stacy's put out on fermenting and learning all I can because that's exactly how I want to preserve our food, at least most of it. But I do have to stock up on my jars. Freeze drying. Oh, sorry, I missed one. Freezing. It is safe to assume that every adult has preserved food in this manner at least once or twice, although pressure canning is the most common way to preserve corn on the cob. I beg to differ with that because most people that I have known, even growing up, their first thought and option was to freeze the corn. It can be blanched and frozen as well. Anyway. Yeah, most people that I knew growing up that had gardens would can and freeze most of their harvest. We did. My mom canned tomatoes. My mom used to make homemade grape juice, and it is so good. If you've never had homemade grape juice, if you have grapes on your homesteads, I highly recommend you make a batch of homemade grape juice because once you've had it, you will never buy it from the store again. It is so good. Okay, freeze drying. This is the most common method for store-bought survival food, sorry. Basically, it works the way it sounds. You freeze the food and then dry it. This method is very effective on some foods, adding years, sometimes decades, to its shelf life. There are a couple of downsides, though. Freeze-drying machines are very expensive, ranging from $2,000 to $4,000 in price. You can freeze-dry food without a machine, but the process takes several weeks. So unless you have a lot of extra cash or a lot of patience, this isn't the best option. We're not going to go the route of freeze drying because, number one, I don't want to spend that much on a freeze dryer. And secondly, once we're on the property, I don't want to have to deal with getting enough solar to run it. Because Doug was talking about that on one of their videos. And even he said that a freeze dryer, it would just they take way too much energy to run. And you would pretty much need your own little solar thing for just that. So I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to go with fermentation and smoking and canning very little. I might, as I said a few days ago, I might still can, like some applesauce and, a couple of other things, a few other things, but for the most part, I'm going to be going with fermentation for all that live, really healthy food. So that was it for food preservation for today. There's a whole long list of things on food preservation, but we'll get into that later. Can't wait till I have my binder so I can start opening that up and putting that information out. That binder is going to ensure that my channel is always going to have extra stuff on it. Extra videos and probably sometimes 2 or 3 videos a day. So anyway, that was all for that for today. And I don't know if I'm going to do another video tonight. I might. Just depends. But I will definitely be doing another video tomorrow. And Wednesday, when we go up to the property, I'm going to make sure my computer is charged. And I will more than likely take my computer with me. I'm not going to get it out until we've actually accomplished. I mean, I might start a little video and then pause it so we can get some work done. And then I don't know if I really want to go live because I'm not going to have a way to charge it. But what I'll probably do is start a video and then pause it and get started on some of the work that we want to do, and then I'll open it back up and restart, pick up where it left off, resume the video, and, just make sure you guys get a look at what's going on and what we're going to be able to get done on the property and what we figured out on where to put what and that kind of thing. So as far as we know, so far Wednesday, we're definitely going out there. So just pray that it stays that way for us, because we do need to get out there and start getting some work done. But I will get this video uploaded, and I have to write out the next chapter for tomorrow for the next video. And again, I might put out another video later. I don't know. It's already 5 o'clock tonight, so maybe not. I don't really want to delve too deep into putting out another video tonight because I want to be able to watch Doug and Stacy tonight too. So as far as I can think, that's it for now. I also want to work on my painting tonight, and I keep saying that, and I haven't been able to yet, but I'll get it finished. Anyway, I'm going to get this video up, and I will talk to you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.